I hope you're ready for the debut edition of Nerd versus Noob. Here they come. They're coming in hot. Let's welcome our resident nerd, Marc Rowland, and our first-time noob, Monika Schneider. Marc, how are you?
I'm doing amazingly. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing well. How about that intro? Monika, how are you?
Great. Thank you.
So I mentioned just moments ago that this is the debut edition of a brand new segment, which is called Nerd versus Noob. Tonight, I am going to guide both you, Monika, and you, Marc, in a role-playing game quest. Now, you might be asking yourself, James, I thought you didn't love nerds. And the answer would be yes. I don't have a lot of reverence, but I sympathize with their cause. The reason for tonight's segment, which will hopefully be a hit, and we'll do it again, time and time again, is we are on Twitch, what I have dubbed the nerdiest website on the internet. So I'm going to be guiding you, Monika, and you, Marc, through a role-playing game of various scenarios and various nerd genres. Now, before we begin, you have both provided me with your credentials. Marc, I'm going to begin with you.
Okay.
Marc Rowland is the God Emperor of Nerd. He is a role-playing game snob, having quit the McGill Gamers Guild because of their power gaming approach. He was the winner of his grade 6 public speaking competition with his award-winning speech, Space, the Final Frontier. And he is very proud of his comic book, magic card, Warhammer, and board game collections. Marc, is there anything you'd like to add?
I mean, there's so much more I could have included, but in the, due to brevity and, I had to cut some things out.
All right. Well, I appreciate you doing that in the interest of saving time. Monika, are you ready to hear your credentials?
Sure.
Let's begin. Monika Schneider has traveled regularly to Paris, New York, and London for work in the fashion industry. She has also lived and worked in New York City for over 3 years while working in the fashion industry, managing a restaurant in the Upper West Side, and was also a personal assistant to a retired millionaire. Fun facts include singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun for the Queen in the 90s, and was almost shot when accidentally mistaken for a robber by 9 officers while shooting a high school drama film project on location at a Scotia Bank in Ottawa.
I heard about this.
True.
I heard about this. Oh my God, that was you.
That was me.
These are 2 very different rap sheets. We have got Marc the nerd and Monika the noob. Otherwise, what I would refer to as someone who has lived a fulfilling life. Now then, are we ready for our first quest?
Yes, I'm so excited.
I would be remiss
Literally
if I
my
didn't
first quest
mention
ever.
that all of our quests tonight have been provided by a entity in which I have sourced who goes by the name the Game Master. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin with you, Marc. I'm going to allow you to set the pace.
Okay.
The first category is fantasy. Let's begin.
Fantasy.
You stand before King Lothar Rockbreaker, leader of the dwarves and your biggest critic. You have broken the sacred dwarven rule of sleeping with a royal family member. Now the king and the court are demanding your head placed into the great Grunamir furnace. How do you convince this mighty king to spare your life? And as you answer that, I'm going to take a shower because I feel filthy after saying so many of those words.
Yeah. Okay, so I've slept with a member of the royal family, so they're going to put me in the Grunamir furnace as punishment. Well, James, I happen to know that the lower caverns of the Dwarven Kingdom are cursed, that there's a cursed beast that lives within those caverns. And so in exchange, instead of putting my head into the Grunamir furnace, I will instead offer my services as an adventurer of some repute to go down and clear those caverns of that curse so that they can gain access to all the riches within, because there's some of the finest rubies there.
And you're coming in right under time. That's great. So Monika, it is now your turn. Are you prepared for your fantasy quest?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You're on your way back to a town to meet a lusty bartender for an ale or two and some fun in the barn. But suddenly, a treacherous troll towers over you and blocks the way forward. Normally, a simple toll would suffice this menacing creature. However, this troll's stomach grumbles resonate in your chest. The foul creature is willing to sacrifice a few coins if it means satisfying its tremendous hunger. How do you navigate this dilly of a pickle?
Okay. My character sweats profusely. And I know this troll. I've met him before. And he doesn't recognize me because I've jumped in a mud pond and covered myself in leaves, knowing that this troll would probably show up because his goal in life is to prevent me from any romantic encounter. So I've prepared by storing my sweat from my long journey into my hide pouch, knowing that when I see him, I will squeeze it into his mouth because I do have the skill of exact projectile launching of any bodily fluid. And it goes in his mouth, immediately satisfying his hunger, and therefore I can pass.
Okay, these are both very good answers. They're very good answers. I've yet to determine who I think is in pole position, so we're going to wait to make any type of early proclamation.
I have to ask Monika. So I think there was a bit of, there was some nice fashion in there. You mentioned a hide pouch.
Yes.
How in are hide pouches this year?
Well, if we're talking about in my character's story,
Yeah.
they're actually, they've been extinct because the animal that provided the hide was hunted by, by the licrilic folk who needed their hide to keep them warm, and therefore I was lucky enough to get one on my passage.
I'm so incredibly happy we were able to go into this offshoot conversation about the hide pouch. Let's continue. Monika, since Marc began the fantasy round, you are going to begin the next round, which is science fiction.
Science fiction, okay.
Let's begin.
Let's begin.
You're locked in a hacking battle with a legendary techromancer by the name of Fingers 6. His code is strong and unlike anything you've ever seen before. His backdoor Vox plays avoid most firewall detection. You close your eyes and boot up cyber meditation. You remember making love with your enhanced genitals and suddenly your circuits overload. You are now cyber inspired. You remember you've got an ace up your sleeve. What is it?
Wow.
God, Monika, I'm so apologetic about that scenario.
No, it was bound to happen. And the ace up my sleeve in this cyber world, I'm now inside the computer in his maze that he set for me, once again looking for romance. And the ace up my sleeve is actually a teeny tiny little bow and arrow made of plastic.
Oh.
Yes, that is actually all the little numbers you see in the matrix. So it can change, and I shoot it and it goes through, and it gets him in the eye and shuts down his whole computer system, and then I'm back out in the human world, and my genitals have now come back to normal size.
Well, and that's a relief, right?
Yeah.
That's a relief. Marc, we're gonna move on to your portion of the sci-fi quest. Let's begin.
I can't wait. Is it also going to revolve around genitals?
Oh, well, I can only hope. Let's begin.
Yeah.
You owe a whole lot of credits to one of the worst alien cartel captains on this side of Artos Prime, Grundle Flaps. Oh, and to make matters worse, Grundle is your ex. You stand in their office with empty pockets, but you've got a hidden RK6 blaster under your space duster.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do crazy things for love. Sometimes we don't. What do you do?
Okay, so I need some clarification here.
Please.
I owe money to Grundle Flaps, right? On this side of RK Prime.
Yeah, you owe a whole lot of credits to one of the worst alien cartel captains on this side of Artos Prime, Grundle
Not to be
Flaps.
confused with Optimus Prime.
Yes.
For those
from the Transformers world, which will appear on the next edition of Nerd versus Noob. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to use this RK blaster for for violence, for combat. I'm gonna use this arcade blaster. I'm gonna set it to low setting, so like candle mode. So I just, I take it out of my duster and I set it in the center of the room, and it's just sort of like a little flickering flame in the center. And I'm going to make a charisma check to try to seduce Grundleflaps and really kind of remind Grundle of our past that we had together, because I'm clearly like some kind of roguish ne'er-do-well. I've probably had a few lovers here and there, but I really do think that Grundle and I had something special, and maybe this is my turning point. Maybe this is where I finally settled down with someone, and Grundleflaps is that person.
Can you please tell me what a charisma check is? Because I don't think anyone who has ever had charisma has played any of these games.
Oh, yeah. So basically, one of my attributes that I'm really high in this game is charisma. My character is like very proficient at charisma, so is clearly going to do well as in this scenario.
Well, it seems like prior to that answer, somebody in the chat indicated that a charisma check is actually in Marc's book on dating. So that's nice.
Exactly. That's step one. Successfully make a charisma check.
Right. We're going to move on to the next round, Marc, of course, because you went second in the sci-fi round. You are going to now go first in the Lovecraft quest.
Okay.
Let's begin. You are a fish, but you weren't always. Cthulhu has cursed you for your relentless sexual advances. You must find a way to impress the mighty aqua god in this current pathetic form. How will you be seen by your mighty lord? Once again, our quests are coming to us from the Game Master.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, look, in Lovecraftian style, I'm not going to impress Cthulhu. I'm nothing. I'm an insignificant grain of sand in this cosmic desert. I'm absolutely nothing. Cthulhu,
are you cucking yourself right now?
Oh man, Cthulhu cucks everyone, dude. I'm swimming in this pool. I look at Cthulhu once, and my already enfeebled brain is blasted, and I go totally insane. However, that does allow me to slip through time, because as I lose track of reality, I end up seeing different alternate versions of myself, and I arrive at a time before all of this can happen. Unfortunately, the same thing keeps happening over and over, so I just relive this same thing over and over and over. It's inescapable, just as Cthulhu is.
Well, in addition to this, in the chat, once again, Cthulhu cucks everyone is also apparently in your book of dating. Monika, yes, are you prepared for your final quest? If so, let's begin. You are trapped in a mansion of madness. Got it. Your mind is turned against you, and you can no longer decipher friend from foe. Suddenly, the world around you shifts and distorts. You clutch your head to try to make the environment stop spinning. After a few seconds, everything stops and you find yourself in your old apartment. Your extremely attractive partner emerges from the kitchen holding a pot roast. They place it on the table and invite you over for some sexual intercourse. This reality is too good to be true. Was it all a dream, or is this another trick? How will you find out? Again, these quests are coming to us from the Game Lord.
It's definitely a trick, James. I can tell. None of my past lovers ever knew how to cook. So the big giveaway there is that this guy is showing me a pot roast. I also have a very unique power of perception. So everything becomes like my eyes laser to everything in the room, and right away it's like I know everything is wrong. Because also, you know what? That light bulb in the kitchen was never working ever, and now it's working. Clue number one. 2, as we said, he's cooking, never happens. 3, I can see a little piece of skin showing between his gloves and his sweater, and it's full of scales. So I know it's Captain Lizard.
Oh.
Always come in to try to feed me and poison me with whatever meal he's making. And so I also have the gift of pinching myself to bring myself back to where I once was. So with a pinch, I'm back in the mansion, no problem. Go down the stairs, through the trap door, out into the churchyard that's just about 500 meters away. And from there, I pick up my sack of tricks that I left there should I ever need them. Yeah, exactly.
A sack of tricks?
Mm-hmm.
Monika exceeded her time by 90 seconds. But you know what? I'm the host. I'll do what I want. And also, I'm not keeping track of the time. Before we declare a winner, what I want to do is refer to both you and Monika. Marc, as our resident mega nerd, how would you categorize Monika's answers to these 3 quests that the game master has sent her on?
I think overall really great. Yeah, I think all of them really good. Maybe the last one, the sack of tricks, like it felt like she was had a little too much agency in the story. So and she didn't run into the night screaming madness and basically, just sort of commit suicide at the end. So it didn't feel Lovecraftian to me. That's the only thing.
All right.
She's too successful.
Good
Spoken like a true stickler. Now, Monika, same question as someone who is new to this world.
Yeah.
What did you
I
think
think
of
she was power
Marc's?
gaming, is what I want to say. I think she was power gaming.
Right. Well, I'm not familiar with that term. Monika, how would you categorize Marc's answers?
Wow. I mean, wonderful, creative, obviously connoisseur of all the genres and tropes and words in this world. Super awesome.
All right. Well, it is now time to determine whether Monika the noob or Marc the nerd is going to emerge victorious of this inaugural edition of Nerd versus Noob. I listened carefully to all 3 of your respective answers. Once again, we went through 3 separate quests with 3 separate genres. We had fantasy, we had sci-fi, and we had Lovecraft. Now then, Marc, your answers were very spot on. They felt very much in the world of what I would imagine these role-playing games feature. Monika, as someone who also doesn't participate, I really enjoyed your creativity and your thinking outside of the box. Now, as you were going through your answers, Marc, your precision, again, very much impressive. Monika, your ability to bullshit your way through everything was also very impressive. But one of you made a tactical error that cost you this inaugural edition of Nerd versus the Noob. The tactical error made was, Marc, your crass discussion of the term cucking.
You brought it up.
I brought it up,
you said
and
cucking.
This is true. I brought it up, but it was a test.
It was a test.
It was a test to see if you would indulge it or if you would navigate away from it. And your crass language and your interest in cucking unfortunately cost you this inaugural matchup of Nerd versus the Noob. Monika, tonight you are our quest champion.
Woo! I'm honored. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Marc, I'd be remiss if I didn't refer to you. How do you feel about losing this first edition?
I have to say it's got to hurt. I have a lot of experience with nerdish material.
But you're going to say cucking.
Well, I just know that I have a lot to work on though for the future. So I just want to thank you for having me on the show, and I hope to do better in the next edition. In the cucking world. Yeah.
Monika, let's go to you for some post quest analysis.
Post quest. It was wow. I mean, I feel inspired to perhaps play a role-playing game for the first time in my life and see what it's all about.
Now, do you think you're going to enter the world of RPGs?
I mean, maybe,
So that was a great non-answer, a very good non-answer.
In my head, I'm like RPG and just realized that meant role-playing games.
The role-playing game. Well, I think you've got a knack for it. And Marc, all you have to do is try to keep the game clean, my friend.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well,
sorry, everyone, I let you down.
Marc, no, I'm fine. Marc and Monika, I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. And I guess I'll await your appearances on future editions of Nerd versus Noob on At Home with James.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It was awesome.
That was Monika Schneider and Marc Rowland.